Greet the Mets. Bring your kitties, bring your wife, because the Mets are really knocking the ball, knocking the home runs over the wall. 3-5, well, 5. Everybody coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town.
Hi, this is Lindsay Nelson.
And Bob Murphy.
And you're right in the middle of the bright, exciting, wonderful world of the New York Mets, where baseball has never been so much fun. And this is the love story that puts this shiny new world into orbit. The enchantment, the courtship, and the honeymoon of the Mets and their fans. It's a story of let your hair down, blending with a stand-up and be counted baseball devotion. A story of warm, vibrant, fun-loving baseball fans and their new team. Baseball fans in the world, but with a special kind of loyalty.
But it was not always thus. Many years ago, Met fans were in love with somebody else. The heroes of Brooklyn. The Rhubarb. But wait till next year.
The Polo Grounds immortal. The miracles. And the legend. And the day and era came to an end.
And to some, the loss was deep and personal. And they swore they would never love another. Yes, National League Baseball was gone from New York town.
But never is a long, long time. And soon there was a new fella in the neighborhood. His name was Mr. Met. To some, he was a doll. And he tried so hard, but others still had that old feeling. And when their former beaux came back to the old neighborhood just to visit, the old Polo Grounds rang as they cheered the old favorite, Duke Snider, Dan Musial, and Willie Mays. They cheered for Casey Stengel. They cheered the new Met, and some just cheered.
Yes, the romance was for real. But the setting was temporary, for the gallant old Polo Grounds was soon to be a memory. And the Mets were chomping at the bit, waiting for their new home to take shape. It wasn't long in coming. Before you could say Shea Stadium, there it was. Breathtaking, big, bold, and beautiful. An architectural dream come true. And when Mr. Met said at last, "Come up to my place and let me show you my escalators," the fans could not resist. And who could blame them? The view from inside was magnificent. There were no posts to obstruct the vision of any fan. And with the curve of the stands, they felt they could reach out and shake hands with the fellow sitting out in the corner. The setting was warm and friendly.
On the playing field, things were looking much more attractive. Progress was evident, and the adulation of the fans grew stronger. Oops, well, true love doesn't always run smooth.
But the improvement was unmistakable. Through trade, through purchase, and through accelerated development, Met stars began appearing. Men like Ron Hunt, named by United Press International as the best second baseman in either league. The Mets Player of the Year in 1964 and the Mets' first All-Star.
Roy McMillan, the one-time boy bandit, who still commits robbery at shortstop with his sure hand. Between them, Hunt and McMillan give the Mets that necessary strength down the middle you always hear baseball men speak of. For much of the season, the Mets led the league in double plays, and most of them were started or pivoted by these fine fielders.
And at the receiving end of those double plays was the youngest Met, Ed Kranepool, who has proven that, with the Mets, a player of ability can advance swiftly.
Joe Christopher, a big favorite at Big Shea, came into his own last season, one of 3 Mets to hit over 300.
And the spunkiest, winningest of all Met teams never failed to give the fans what they came to see. One of the chief reasons for the spunk and the spark of the Mets is the man whose agile mind and dynamic spirit have led the club on the field since its inception. A man who has earned a place high in the ranks of baseball's nobility. His name, Casey Stengel. His title, manager.
How do you count for the tremendous attendance this year at Shea Stadium?
The attendance is great. We know how great it was. The owners realize it. And I realize it. I want to thank the public of New York City and all the surrounding cities for coming out and patronizing our baseball club.
What do you need as a manager, Casey? What's your managerial plan to make this a winning ball club 65?
The thing is, what we have to do, and it has to be done in a hurry, is to see if we can't get this ball club where we can have a winning streak. Did you get it? All right.
And so Casey Stengel returns to the helm and to the bands and banners, and he'll certainly have an eye on all the linen love notes that are paraded around Shea Stadium. Messages which, in one way or another, added up to Let's Go Mets. Want to hear about fans and banners from an expert? Well, here are a few profundities from Mr. C.D. Stengel.
Now, if you want me to go into the fans of New York, I have to say it's outstanding. Some of them have been some of the very greatest fans that's been in the world. They've started more banner days and they have more people that carry banners than in any athletic event that's in the United States. They start in their own neighborhood. Then they start in another neighborhood. Then they make sayings about the ball players. Some of the sayings are outstanding. Some of them carry wonderful prose in them. Others are wonderful poems. And it isn't only in New York City. We have them in Chicago. We have them have come from Boston. We have fun from Philadelphia. We have them in Los Angeles. We also have them in Cincinnati. And when we go into those ballparks, it's not unusual to see a group of Mets fans go Mets, and they start singing in different cities.
Things became so competitive in the banner department that the Met management decided on a contest. And so Banner Day was born. And messages of love filled the field. And no Byron, Shelley, or Keats was ever more prolific or prose-worthy.
It is simple to get to the Met Love Nest at Shea Stadium. Most people take the subway. The express gets you to the park in 20 minutes from Midtown Manhattan. The Long Island Railroad also provides quick and easy access. If you're driving, wide new highways from all directions help speed you there. And when you arrive, you even get to park your car. That makes for happiness and affection. Plenty of parking space. As a matter of fact, parking problems must be terrible everywhere because people seem to come to Shea from all states just to park. Met fans walk, swim, row, and fly to Shea.
The World's Fair Marina is just a short jaunt away for boating butts. And it is even possible to fly in by helicopter. And the glamorous World's Fair is just across the street from Shea Stadium. Some fellows find it convenient to park the wife there and go to the ball game.
Yeah, and I hear some wives do the same thing in reverse.
The last time New York had built a World's Fair was 1939. So what was more natural than assembling the participants of the 1939 All-Star Game for the first old-timers reunion at Shea? It was a reunion that dampened the eyes and softened the hearts of thousands. And if you recall, there were a few gentlemen on those teams who had a pretty good idea of just how the game of baseball should be played.
Of course, they weren't all that old. There were the handsome Hall of Famers like Joe DiMaggio and Hank Greenberg, and many of the local players Dad was in love with. Dolph Camilli, Johnny Mize, Nas Lombardi, and the fireman who rose in the ranks to become Met Veep, Johnny Murphy. Some of these venerable superstars of yesteryear brought with them an extra pound or two. And some had a little snow on the roof. And for some, the roof was a little thin. Then there was Ducky Medwick and Bob Feller. And you expected them to step right onto the field to play again. Another big day at Shea was the 1964 All-Star Game. The first at Shea, and one of the tightest and most exciting in years. And all the big ones were there. Juan Marichal, Henry Aaron, Ken Boyer, and of course the Mets' own Ron Hunt.
And the American League brought along its muscle, Harmon Killebrew. And of course, Mickey Mouse. The Mick made a repeat appearance at Shea, and this time he brought along his Yankee playmates. It was the Mayor's Trophy game, and it was exciting. Flash bulbs popped. And the fans left no doubt about where their hearts were. But they are good sports. And they cheered Yogi Berra when he came up to pinch hit. It was almost as though they knew he soon would be one of them.
There was another big game at Shea in '64. It featured the All-Stars of 1980, the sons of Mets players. The future Mets presented a murderous row that swept the old men off their feet 11-0. There was Slugger Smith, Crasher Canizero, Hammerin Hickman. They ran the bases like Maury Wills, too. They really looked good.
Yes, and their moms looked pretty good, too.
And then one evening, the Mets tossed a party. It was one of the biggest parties in history. Even the Goodyear blimp attended. And from overhead, it blinked out the message, "Happy birthday to Casey." And everybody sang, including the visiting Dodger Glee Club.
Birthday, let's sing happy birthday. 74 and a chance we adore even in last place. There is simply no doubt he is going the route. He is keeping the Mets alive. Here's happy birthday till next year when Casey is dead.
Gifts poured in from everywhere. He was even given found the seats from the old Polo Grounds where he first met his lovely wife, Edna. And, of course, the old master responded by giving Edna a kiss. And the 55,000 kibitzers cheered, because all the world loves a lover, even a 74-year-old one.
There are young lovers, too, at Shea Stadium. And the Mets have a special date night for them to come and enjoy the music and the dancing. And everything. And who said Met fans aren't normal?
Yes, it's a blast at Shea Stadium, and it's the team which produces the excitement. They come to see Bobby Klaus hit one. And Charlie Smith, who led the Mets in homers. And Al Jackson, the little lefty with the big curve and the big heart.
And always the search to get better. The Mets are a instruction. The faster they learn, the faster they'll be moved up to Shea Stadium. And the sooner the Mets will climb. And that is why the Mets entered a team in the Florida Instructional League, where the Mets of tomorrow learn from some of the sharpest minds in baseball, including Ed Stanky, Don Hefner, and...
From the start, they have had top-notch executive talent. George Weiss, Donald Grant, Donnie Murphy, and now another strong hand joins the club in the person of Bing Devine, chosen by baseball men as Executive of the Year twice running. There is no season for these men. They are for all seasons and all hours, working to make the Mets ever worthy of the fans' cheers.
I personally think we've come a long way, don't you?
I certainly do, and I'll never forget the early days. This has been the happiest 10th place club in history. Really feel the upsurge is in sight. I remember we had to take old players to start with to let people know we were in town, and we have gradually replaced them, and now I think our ball club on the whole is probably the youngest in the National League.
I think it is, too. We're in for the long race, and it's taken us a long time to show, but we have the latest addition to our family is Bing Devine here, and we welcome you aboard, and we hope that you're going to enjoy it.
Well, Don and George, I know from being on the other side of the picture, the opposing club, one of the opposing clubs, the type of challenge which has faced you gentlemen as the founders of the Mets, and I'm happy to join in that challenge, which, as you say, you've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go.
I think one of the principal reasons for all of it is the terrific enthusiasm shown by Mrs. Payson, who is really our #1 fan. She keeps score herself. She's vitally interested in the game. She's just no other fan than our #1 fan. Herbie Walker, Frederick Trask, he came in as a director, and Jim Carlisle, and all of those people are still part of our happy family.
Back in 1961, we had one club because we weren't operating. That was in Mobile. And now we start the season with a minimum of 5 clubs, which indicates at least that we are developing ball players at a pretty good rate.
Let's all of us, the family of the Mets, on behalf of the board of directors, make up our minds that we're going to whip into it in 1965 and catch the enthusiasm of our wonderful patrons, these great fans of ours, and see if we can join in the parade, and let's go Mets.
The Cupids in this love story hang their hats on the press level at Shea. New York's dedicated sports writers have played a big part in sparking this romance, with their typewriters humming a tune of daily inside contact between the new team and their new breed. farther down on the press level, the control booth houses the complex electronic devices that deliver scores, information, and messages to the fans on Shea Stadium's huge and beautiful new scoreboard. And there's Jane Jarvis, the Mets' talented organist. And even a couple of sportscasters, including the guy who has hit more home runs than anybody else in broadcasting, Mr. Ralph Kiner.
And then there are those little extras that make Shea Stadium just like home. The fashionable Diamond Club, available to season ticket holders. These talented Mets, who were not developed in the Florida Instructional League, add to the comfort of cocktails and dinner. And then it's take me out to the ball game.
And there were some great ball games to be taken out. Contenders looked back at the end of the season and remembered the games they had been beaten by the amazing Mets. Games that could have meant the pennant. Right up to the end, the Mets had their say in things, and the headlines screamed the scare they gave the Cardinals on those exciting last days.
It's a tough league, and the Mets are part of it. They are becoming a bigger part of it each year, and the other teams know it. There are the young, hustling Mets, and the older hustling Mets like Yogi Berra. And Warren Spahn. And the even older hustling Mets.
And there are the Met fans, already a legend in baseball. All are a part of it. Wonderful, exciting, magical Met world. A world filled with excitement and laughter and kids and cheering and chanting and more refreshing good times than the New York sports world has ever known. For there is a beauty in seeing something born and seeing it grow to strength. And so the first wonderful season ended at beautiful Big Shea. The fun wasn't over. It merely had stopped for a while because the lights went out.